Welcome to From the Pilot's Seat. Join me as we explore real aviation stories, lessons learned, and incredible flying machines. If you love flying or want to learn, hit subscribe and come along for the ride. For deeper insights, check out my books, Lessons from the Sky and From the Pilot's Seat. They could make all the difference on your next flight. Hangar flying. Lieutenant Colonel Joel Witt, Air Armament Center, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, September 2008. There I was flying the C-17 out in the system back before deployments, back when Prince Sultan Air Base and Northern Southern Watch were still around. My crew and I deadheaded from the States to Ramstein to pick up a used-to-be-broke C-17 to be followed by a cargo packs pickup in Egypt and return to the States. When we arrived, the bird was still broke. Well, sort of. It had a fuel leak in one of its auxiliary tanks. With waiver in hand, TACC pushed us from Ramstein to Rhein-Main for fuel cell maintenance. Not a bad trade. Egypt for Frankfurt. We got fixed and expected to be on our way home. No chance. We got picked to take our newly fixed good bird down to Naval Station Rota, Spain, and give it to another crew who'd been stuck with a bad jet for several days. Again, not bad. Spend some time in Spain and then go home. Well, this is where my story really starts. Hangar flying is one of those sometimes lost, sometimes profound lessons that proved it's worth its weight in gold on this trip. Plus, it's a lot easier to think about a situation at 1 G and 0 knots. When we arrived at Rota, we gave our jet to the crew that was waiting to go downrange to Kuwait and went into crew rest. After a few Z's, I was wandering the halls at billeting and ran into the aircraft commander who had supposedly taken my aircraft. He related that they didn't get very far before having a problem. 20 minutes into climb out, one of the 2 fire bottles on the right wing indicated that it had depressurized. The crew discussed the issue and decided it was wise to return to base, RTB, to Rota and try to get it fixed, since flying around with less than the prescribed safety equipment seemed to be a bad idea. Maintenance came out to the jet, determined that the empty bottle was probably caused by a bleed air leak directly on the fire bottle, resulting in the pressure relief squib letting go and releasing the extinguishing agent inside the wing. But by the time the bottle could be replaced and the suspected loose bleed air fitting could be tightened, the crew had long run out of crew duty day to complete the mission. Then he told me that TACC was probably going to alert my crew for the mission at the conclusion of our crew rest. Woohoo! Didn't think we were going to be anywhere near that part of the sandbox on this trip, nor collect any hostile fire pay or tax-free. Sounded good to me. Now, knowing that I would be doing what he just tried to do, and given the same scenario, I asked if he and his crew would have done anything differently. He thought about it for a little bit and passed on some good points. 1. The decision to RTB with less than a full set of fire bottles was a good idea. You never know when Murphy's Law will catch up with you. The C-17 has 4 fire bottles, 2 per wing, giving the crew a chance to fight an engine fire on each wing with 2 blasts of agent. The bottles cannot be used cross-wing. Therefore, with 1 bottle gone, there's only 1 bottle left for engines 3 and 4. 2. What caused the bottle to let go? The bottle is protected from thermal expansion by a diaphragm that relieves pressure when the agent's temperature exceeds 205 degrees Celsius. How did it get that hot? Might suspect fire, bleed air leak, or just a faulty diaphragm or indicator. But the manifold failure detection system didn't indicate any type of bleed air leak failure. 3. The fire bottle had to get hot somehow. Take away any potential source of heat if you don't need it. In other words, given the opportunity again, he would have just isolated the right wing bleed air manifold. This all sounded reasonable enough to me, and with thoughts of how much beer this unexpected trip was going to buy me, I left him to his crew rest and prepared for my mission. Takeoff out of Rota was uneventful. Past Sigonella hang a right over Egypt, cross over Saudi Arabia, and turn north into Kuwait. No problems at all. Offload some pallets, onload some pallets, fire the jet back up, and take off from Kuwait. Then I had déjà vu. About 20 minutes into the flight, we got the Agent A low light on the right wing, just like the previous crew had. There was no Chapter 3 emergency procedure for fire bottles inexplicably discharging in flight. And as of 2007, there still wasn't. Thinking back to my earlier conversation, I reached up and isolated the right wing manifold. It was dark, but the weather was clear and I had no immediate concerns about icing. I knew we could stay pressurized with just the left wing manifold, so no worries there either. We decided to level off at about flight level 200 and come up with a game plan. The loadmaster scanned the right wing, but could see little in the dark. We decided there were 3 options at this point. Divert to Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, where we knew we could get maintenance, or we could continue along our route and divert into Sigonella and get maintenance. Our third option was to turn around and land back at Kuwait and wait for the maintenance repair team. First, we tried Prince Sultan Air Base, but the Saudis wouldn't let us land there without diplomatic clearances unless we used the E word. Well, I wasn't quite sure that this required declaring an emergency, so we talked about making it to Sigonella, another 3.5-hour flight from where we were, and I again went back to the hangar flying that we did earlier. Flying around for significant periods of time without all the safety equipment just didn't pass the good judgment test for me. One option remained, RTB Kuwait. A half-hour later, we were uneventfully on the ground and had taxied to park. The loadmaster did a quick inspection of the right wing, and before I was even out of my seat, he was saying I had something to come look at. An 8-foot-long panel on the lower skin of the right wing was swinging in the breeze, with a softball-sized hole in the middle of it. The fire bottle had not just discharged by outgassing through a thermal diaphragm this time, it had violently blown its connective ducting down through the bottom of the wing. Flying around with holes in the wing isn't the most comfortable feeling in the world, and it was at that point that I was really glad I had made the decisions I had. Multiple parts had to be replaced, including the bleed air ducting that had ruptured, the fire bottle and its plumbing, and the lower wing access door. It cost us an extra week in Kuwait, but who knows what it could have cost us if it weren't for taking the time to talk about an unusual malfunction and what to do about it. Lessons learned. Hangar flying is worth its weight in gold. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories from the pilot seat. If you love flying or want to learn, hit subscribe and come along for the ride. For deeper insights, check out my books Lessons from the Sky and From the Pilot Seat. They could make all the difference on your next flight.